What a great story. Of course, I chose the shorter version, which itself was long enough. But it's a great story because there's a little bantering. You know, if you really look at the conversation Jesus and the woman at the well are having, you know, Jesus says, I will give you water. He's talking about the wellspring of life within. She's still focused on the well, and she starts to tease Jesus. Really, you know, where are you going to get water? You don't even have a bucket. And so they start teasing back and forth. And finally, in the conversation, she comes to faith and comes to understand. For an image or something to think about for this week regarding the conversation between the Samaritan woman and Jesus here at the well, I would ask, the water, the life-giving water that Jesus gives from the Holy Spirit within nourishes our soul. And so a question is, how well do we nourish our soul? We nourish the body, we nourish the mind. But how much time do we put into nourishing our soul? Gyms spring up in all kinds of towns. You can find these exercise centers. They're open sometimes at 4 in the morning so that people can lift weights and run and do all this stuff. People are taking better care of themselves now than ever before. Watching what we eat, counting our calories. And the same with the mind. We nourish the mind. Further education, courses online, some of the great programming that cable has now, the Learning Channel, the Discovery Channel. So we nourish the body, we nourish the mind, but how often do we nourish the soul? It needs to be nourished as well. There's several ways we can do this. So I'll just throw 3 things out for you to think about. The first is prayer. The first is prayer. To begin with the standard traditional prayers, you know, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Glory Be, maybe a prayer to St. Michael, a prayer to St. Francis, whatever helps us to bring our thoughts into focus and push out distractions. A good way to start. But then in prayer, to have some contemplative time, where we just sit and don't think, but mentally listen, to hear what God has to say, to stop asking and start listening. So prayer, the #1 way to nourish the soul. Just as the body needs a certain amount of exercise each day, the soul needs its spiritual exercises each day. The second that I would throw out of the 3 today is charity. To be truly concerned for the needs of other people and to try to meet those needs as best we can. Times are tough. We can't be giving, giving, giving. Sometimes we have to tighten our belts, especially with today's economy. But charity doesn't just mean making a donation when people knock on the door or pass the hat. Charity could be trying to, and this ties in with the third, understand where people are coming from. To love people as they are. Charity could be getting groceries for the old lady next door. Charity could be calling somebody you haven't talked to in a while, who you know is hurting. Reaching out in some way. Charity could be as simple as not speaking ill of someone else when others are. And then that third one that ties in with charity, understanding. I may not agree with what somebody is doing, but I can at least try to understand where they're coming from. You as parents probably know this much better than I. You probably don't always agree with some of the choices that your children have made, but you can at least try to understand why they made those choices. And in that way, maybe you can't go down the same road they're going, but as they go, they know of your love and of your support as a parent, simply through trying to understand where they're coming from. So today, We hear the story of the Samaritan woman and Jesus, their conversation at the well, and her coming to believe that he is the Messiah. And Jesus talks about life-giving waters in spirit and in truth. How do I nourish my soul? Do I spend a little time each day in prayer? Do I try to love people as they are? Do I try to understand people and where they're coming from so that I can continue to be the good person God is calling me to be and grow in His love and His forgiveness?